Well, a hat trick of brilliant days at the SCG. Usman Khawaja lit the ground up with his second century of the match. He joins an illustrious group of Australian batters to score two centuries against England in an Ashes contest. Welcome to Cricket Daily. It's the SCG Day 4. I'm Menas. I'm with Paul Dennett. Paul, how are you?
G'day, Menas. G'day, everyone. Well, if it wasn't the first innings, it wasn't enough. Now the second innings, what a test match from Usman Khawaja. It was a joyous day. I think even Chris Close, the former Queensland State of Origin legend, I just saw sending out a tweet saying, "Good on you, Uzi." I think everyone in Australia is delighted for him, with the possible exception of Marcus Harris. So yes, it's a triumphant day.
And maybe Chappelli.
Yes. It is one of the worst things, as you know, if you make a prediction, that's just, you don't know whether it's going to be right or wrong. And when it goes wrong, it's a weird thing to suddenly find yourself death writing things that you never thought you would. Like, I've been desperate for it not to rain because I've been telling everyone it's not going to. And so it's become a matter of personal pride for me that it doesn't rain in Sydney. It's crazy.
Australia started the day bowling. They cleaned up England for 294. Then Australia made 6 for 265 declared. England are none for 30 at stumps. Had a tricky little period there of about 40 minutes before the close of play. So it's all set up tomorrow. Australia need 10 wickets to go 4-0 up in the series. England need 2 sessions of rain or to bat out the day. And fancifully, their target is 358, which is virtually impossible unless someone like Josh Butler plays out of their skin. So, Paul, stat of the day. Let's go there to kick things off.
My stat of the day is 8. And that is the number of test matches. So, everyone's been saying that not everyone, but I've certainly been saying that Usman Khawaja in this series has now scored more runs than Marcus Harris, with the obvious point being this is the only match he's played in this series, whereas Marcus Harris is into his 4th match in the series. But I wound it back because Khawaja, having scored 238 runs in this series, I thought, how far back do you have to go to equal that with Marcus Harris? And you've got to go 8 full test matches for him to have that many runs. So, nothing against Marcus Harris. As I said before, I didn't think it wasn't the player I would have picked, but his record is sound, and his record in recent years is better than sound. So, there was some justification in picking him, but I think that you can't not pick Travis Head. He's played fantastically in this series. I would never have even contemplated not picking Cameron Green, but his innings today has surely put to bed any of that speculation. So to say, we can't pick Khawaja because Harris is a specialist opener and we've got to give him the full 5 test matches, it's just stupid. And if that's what they do, then they're idiots.
Khawaja was asked about that in the post-match presser, and he seems pretty resigned to the fact that he might not retain his spot. He also said that, opening is very different to batting number 5. I know you disagree with that. And he did say he likes the selectors showing consistency because he feels, in the past, for example, he was on the wrong side where he was brought in and then dropped after a couple of games. So, I agree with you. I think Harris needs to sit out the next test match. I'd even think about moving Marnus up to open, Smith to 3, Khawaja 4, Head 5, Green 6. I like the look of that. Marnus has been in pretty early and handles the new ball fine. So, what do you think about that radical suggestion?
I was going to make that as well, just so I could say we should send it into Ian Chappell, because one of his one of the great man's life rules is don't weaken a strength to strengthen a weakness. And so he would say, why would you move Marnus Labuschagne for number 3 when he's doing so well there? Why would you move Steve Smith for number 4 when he's doing so well there? Because it doesn't matter. If Labuschagne opened to batting number 3, there's no difference. You bat at number 3, you're in at 1 for none half the time anyway. And look, I accept that opening the batting and batting at number 5 is certainly not the same. Yet, up until recently, everyone has been saying that Khawaja is probably a better opener than he is number 5 anyway. That he gets to face the hard new ball, doesn't have to face the spinners so early, and etc. Look at this second innings where they're making a big show of the fact that when Australia came out to bat, that because the heavy roller had been on, that it was going to be nice and flat for the first 10 to 15 overs. the openers get that, and no one ever comments on that. They always just say, "Oh, it's hard work being an opener." Sometimes it's hard work being at number 5 as well. That you might have a spin at one end, bit of reverse swing. I've always said batting order doesn't mean nothing, but it means a hell of a lot less than the value that people give to it. The emperor has no clothes, and I can tell you, I'm not afraid to say so.
I think just in this particular situation, I think you could effectively move everyone up because Smith is a natural number 3. He's your best player, so he should bat 3. And then Labuschagne reminds me a bit of David Byrne. You could bat opener or 3. It wouldn't really matter. They just play the same anyway. Anyway. I
challenge you to give me any order of the top 6 or the top 7. Put them in any order, and we can put a narrative together like that supports it. Like you should open with Cameron Green and Alex Carey.
Okay.
Like right. I'm saying, you can. It's just words. Of course, you can say that someone looks a bit like that, and I don't disagree. But you could make a point. Cameron Green looks like he's pretty solid. You should open up with him. Maybe you'll appreciate the hard new ball. It's just if you're good enough, you'll score runs, whether you're 1, 3, 5, or 7.
All right. I feel like all right. So Khawaja was the 6th player to score 2 Ashes tons in the same match. Was it Warren 1?
6
What did I say? 6
player,
Aussie, yes. Was it Warren Bardsley? You must remember that one.
1909.
Arthur Morris, famous left-handed opener. Steve Waugh's 97, Old Trafford double. Remember that well, staying up. I'm sure you did. Matty Hayden. Now, I actually don't remember where he did it. I heard that he did, but do you remember?
I think it was Gabba. I think it was the Gabba in 023. But from memory, that was one of those test matches that Australia just absolutely destroyed. Yeah, I think we just blew them away, and I think you got a double in that. And then Steve Smith, obviously.
Yeah, and there was a little conversation, actually, I forgot to tell you about. Warner was having a little chat when he was in the nets a few days ago about openers not getting enough credit. There was just a few people around the nets, Warner and Smith. And so he was having a chat with the people behind, and he said, openers don't get enough credit. And we started going through the openers, and I suggested, Matt Hayden did pretty, there's not a lot of openers with a record as good as him for Australia. And I said, Matt Hayden had a pretty good record. And he said, yeah, but I'd like to play against Bangladesh and Zimbabwe at home as well. Anyway, so...
Warner said this, did he?
Yeah. It's a fair point. Give the tiring Zimbabwe attack to Warner on the whacker, and he might have scored 500.
Yeah, but you could say... Who did Warner get his triple century against a couple of years ago?
Pakistan in a day-nighter. Absolutely. Yeah. You can only play what's in front of you.
Yeah, and it's not as though Hayden played a million test matches against Bangladesh and Zimbabwe at home. It was like literally 2 test matches against Zimbabwe at home that he ever played, and probably two against Bangladesh. It's not, I think that the thing is, not many people have a better record than Warner as opening batters because Warner's record is very, very good no matter, how it stacks up. But, Bob Simpson, Arthur Morris, Bill Woodville, Bill Ponsford, Matthew Hayden, they're all records of around about the same or better than Warner.
Yeah, Michael Slater's almost there. I agree.
He's not in the same class.
And then the other player to last score 2 centuries in Ashes Test match for Australia, you were there, Edgbaston, 2019, Smudge.
Steve Smith, one of the best performances of maybe the best performance I've ever seen in a Test match. One a wonderful thing to watch, and this one was pretty good as well.
Well, I can see some questions coming in. We'll get to them. Just going back to the beginning of the day, Australia rock and rolled England. Bairstow was out for 113. Not much of a resistance. Broad smashed 15. There was they were talking in the commentary. Jonathan Agnew was saying that it's very clear Stuart Broad's swinging, so he doesn't have to face the new ball that's due in a couple of overs. But Scott Boland, so he returned to the field after falling yesterday, finishes with 4 for 36. When that innings ended, I haven't seen, probably not now, but he had the best test bowling average in history at 8.27. Paul, how excited were you? Were you was your family wondering what the hell's going wrong with you? You must have been sort of bouncing around. You've got, Marnus and Smith whose averages are fascinating enough, but then you add the best test bowling average in history.
I mean, it's great. It's just that bowling averages are kind of ruined for me because of the pitches being so bad before the First World War that anytime someone's got a really, really good bowling average and you think, oh, they may be the best ever, you look back and there's all these names from the 1890s and whatever else that are better. So for him to be on top of all of that is bloody impressive. I didn't actually know it. So you've pleased me no end. You've pleased me no end.
I don't. Well, that's good. It's probably good. None for 5 at the end of the day. So it's probably not currently the best test average in history. Hopefully the Poms do us a favour and give a few wickets to him tomorrow. So that carries over. Anything else that's well, do you want me to do my good day, bad day?
Yeah, then I got a couple of other points. Good. You go first.
So good day, Sam Billings. So the story goes, yesterday he was due to fly back to London, literally 90 minutes before the flight.
Wow.
He gets a call from the England team management, don't get on the flight. Instead, he has to drive down from the Sunshine Coast in a ute, which Aggers was surprised about, but in a ute direct. And they didn't really want him to stop or anything because he's got to get to Sydney and then pass a PCR test. So that happened today. He drove down today.
Did it have to be in a ute? Like just a sedan was not acceptable. It had to be.
Well, it was in a ute, and okay. Aggers said we'd have given an Aussie a Mercedes or something. But I don't know how many hire cars there are at the moment. It's peak holiday season. So that good day, Sam Billings.
Does he have to drive all the way down and then swim across back straight? Or is he allowed to get a plane after that?
No, I think he's joined the
okay.
He's joined the party here. He has a PCR test. When that comes back clear, he joins the party. So he might actually keep, and we'll get to that. And so that's my other good day is Jeff Lawson in the BT commentary box. I know Lawson can be a little bit cantankerous like Chappelli, but I really enjoy Jeff Lawson's insights. I actually think he's quite a brilliant cricket mind. So a good day to see him in the commentary box.
I've always thought he's a very good commentator and that it was a mistake by ABC to get rid of him. I thought that, their commentary box would be far better if they had him back. They should have found a way to get Tim Lane back as well. To me, by the way, Tim Lane, once again, commentator of the summer. He's peerless in Australian commentators. He's so far above them all. And the fact that Michael Atherton has joined Channel 7 as well, I'm very impressed with Channel 7's standard of commentary. It is really good. You throw in Ponting and Alison Mitchell and Trent Copeland's doing well, and there's many of them that are pretty good. No one really annoys me too much, I don't think. But yeah, Tim Lane, he's the best.
Yeah, no, I really like Tim Lane, and he's been on Cricket Unfiltered a couple of times. Terrific fellow. And so good day, Lawson and Billings. Bad day, Alex Carey. I don't know what Pat Cummins was doing, but he's got to sort out this declaration. So Green gets out going for his 100 for a very good 74. And I guess we'll talk about that in a moment. But he gets out and you're thinking declaration, but no, you see Alex Carey walk out. He then gets out, bizarrely caught down leg side Ollie Pope, who was keeping for Butler, for a golden duck, and then Cummins declares. So it's like, why didn't you just declare when Green got out?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I hope it's because you just didn't want Leach to get a hat-trick.
Yeah, just stuff him. And the weird thing is, I think there's a theme here, because Khawaja was asked about the declaration. He said there was a weird thing where he was told on the second day that Australia was actually going to bat the rest of the day and then declared the next morning. So Khawaja didn't have a slog on the second afternoon. And then he got out and Cummins declared. And Khawaja said, well, if I'd known you were declaring, I would have had a slog. And Cummins went, I changed my mind. So, yeah, I mean, Cummins is a inexperienced captain. He'll get better at it. But I think
he won't.
Today was wrong.
They all get it wrong.
Right. He won't get better at it then, according to Paul. I mean, I think he'll just become more decisive, whether it's right or wrong. I think, telling your players, at least tell your players like when you think you're going to declare so they can have a slog. Anyway, so that was bad day, Alex Carey, poor bastard. Just gets sent out, gets a golden duck, and then they declare on him.
What I mean in terms of him not getting better is that they always fail to accelerate as much as they should. That if Australia knew that they're going to be declaring at XYZ time, Khawaja and Green were going along at a decent clip, but they weren't going at T20 clip. Green completely defended a ball a few balls before he got out. They should have been absolutely pummeling the ball into the stands from an hour beforehand and ended up giving themselves an extra 20 minutes or half an hour to bowl in England with plenty of runs in the bank to not have to worry about England chasing them down.
All right. Well, I disagree slightly. I
Why?
think they played it perfect.
You don't think they should play to win?
I think they played it perfectly. Khawaja went at a strike rate of 73. It wasn't that easy batting. It was in that last little bit when, they had Milan and Root and Leach bowling. But, Green 74 off 122. He accelerated. He was, he's having a tough run at Test cricket. I think they left themselves plenty of time. I think it was at one point, Australia was 4 for 86. Warner, Harris, Labuschagne, and Smith were all back in the pavilion. And Australia actually were could have been bowled out for 150 and at least opened the door for England. So I think it was a great partnership.
That's a different part of the game.
Yeah, but then they accelerate. In the last hour, they scored very quickly.
They did. But if they knew that they're going to declare at a certain time or that they wanted a certain amount of overs, surely with half an hour to go before that's when they could have gone absolutely full bonkers T20 mode. Stark out there as well, hitting 6 after 6 and declare earlier than they otherwise would have, still safe in the knowledge that England couldn't get the runs, buy themselves an extra few overs.
Well, I think that's why I think Cummins has got to be clear about it, because I think he obviously didn't tell the batters that, because everyone thought he was going to declare when Khawaja got his 100. And then it seemed like he just sort of had a quick think and thought, well, Green, have a slog at the spinners, and if you can get your first Test 100 in the next few overs. But anyway, I see your point. Clarity is important, because I think if Cummins said that we're declaring in half an hour, you're right. They'd just start trying to hit them onto the Bill O'Reilly hill.
Which is impressive that Carey at least had a go. Like he had a slog at his first, not a slog, but he was playing a very aggressive shot to that first ball. It's quite selfless.
So what else jumped out to you today? Any talking points?
Yeah, I had 2 points. I think I've forgotten one of them, but that's the danger with my brain. If I don't say them straight away, they go out the door. One of them was Ollie Pope, of course. I know he does do keeping, but it's such a tough job. You would have thought he would have been terrible, but he kept better than any of the other England keepers have so far. Much in the way the person who's never done pole vault before wouldn't be able to pole vault.
Did you know that was a record today? So he took his 4th catch. He equals the record for a sub fielder. And there's Yunus Khan took 4 catches against Bangladesh in 2001. Riddiman Saha did the same thing last year when he was subbing on for Pant. But Pope took a couple of really good dismissals. The Carey one down the leg side, and who was it he caught behind? But
Harris.
Harris, yeah, terrific catch. I mean, Butler wouldn't have got near that. It would have been 4 byes or 4 runs. Sorry.
Maxwell would have taken it though.
Easy, swallowed it.
The slightly cheapening thing about that stat is that until 2017, you weren't allowed to sub on as a wicketkeeper. So it's only the last few years that really that sort of became a possibility. Go.
Next point. No, next point. I agree.
If it comes to me, I'll say it. It was a good one. Rest assured.
All right. Stay tuned. What a tease. Best in the business. 2 things. Mark Wood bowled really well today. He's a competitive person, and he's the one player that's won some respect. I have to say, Anderson looked every bit his age, 39. It took him about 3 overs to warm up in his second spell today. He just didn't look sharp, and I know his record is infinitely better in the first innings, but I just wonder. I know on English wickets, he's probably worth persisting with, but he did really lag, and I don't know. I mean, it's a pink ball in Hobart, so they'll play him, but he just looked a shot duck today.
What I was disappointed with was Joe Root's captaincy in the when Australia were batting the second time round. That he had to realise that the only way that England had any chance, that yes, they could theoretically still draw it, and if the rain comes in, maybe they will. But in order to win the game, which is what they should have been aiming for, they needed to bowl Australia out for 130 or something like that to chase down 250. And yet, I actually wrote a note of it that it was as early as the 10th or the 11th over that he had Leach and Wood on with field spread to Leach. And one of the overs, they took just a run off every ball, the Australians, risk-free. Even right at the start, I think it was the first ball of the innings, Harris nicked one through a vacant third slip edge. And Michael Vaughan on Foxtel said, what's the point? Like, why wouldn't you have in 3 slips now? That's what I don't understand that. England, you said at the start, have a a theoretical total tomorrow of 350 they still need?
Yeah, for 58 or something.
The sad thing is if it was 258, you could probably still add theoretical in front of it. The way that Joe Root sort of acts, the only way they'd ever go for a total is if they get to T and they're only 2 down, or as you say, if Ben Stokes comes out and thinks, well, I might as well slog. They're never going to actually actively go for a total that's anything above about 2 and over. And I found that particularly disappointing yet again from him as a captain. They might as well shoehorn Owen Morgan into the role if they're going to have a chance in the future.
Yeah, the only intensity was coming from Wood. Broad, Anderson, flat. Leach is not that dangerous. So, you're right. Australia, I said to you, at 4 for 86, England had a chance there to maybe run through Australia, and they didn't take it because they didn't have the troopers to do it. Stokes can't bowl, which obviously leaves them a bit short. All right, I've got 2 bits of news. Anything else?
No, you go.
It's been confirmed Josh Hazlewood won't be available for the next Test match, and the England media team have released statements about Butler and Bairstow's hand injuries, and that basically they've had scans, but we're going to release the information at the end of the Test match. So that doesn't augur well. You would think, they probably both won't be available for the next match. There was there was some footage of Bairstow's thumb that had been strapped up with some, so who knows? But I don't think we'll see them in the next Test match.
Yeah, we're talking about it in the last one of these podcasts, how we're sort of saying the wheels are falling off. The only thing yet to happen is a sort of a glut of injuries afflicting the side, and unfortunately that's now, it's like, it's a full 1990s tour now.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So, Chappelli watch. Okay. So, bit of Chappelli gold from today. So, he was talking about batters that, he was talking about Mark Waugh's catch off Inzamam al-Haq at first slip in the 99.
You should make this a Q&A. You should make it, I've got to guess what he said.
And then he talks about Inzi. Oh, he would have walked off so slowly. He was bloody so slow getting off the pitch. And he was talking with someone else. And then he goes, yeah, the only time Indy got off the pitch quick was that time in Toronto when he wanted to whack the bloke for calling him a potato.
I wouldn't have got that. But was he?
Yeah, some classic Chappelli. And he was trending on Twitter again today.
Yeah, it's like it's all the time now.
All right, questions. All right, let's start with Martin Lawrence. Apart from possible rain, Paul, do you see England getting out of Sydney with a draw?
Where'd you see the Paul in that question?
I was adding that for the people listening.
If we're assuming that they get the full complement of overs in tomorrow, can England draw it? I think if they get the full complement of overs, Australia really should win it. The only thing is that, it's a strange sport. It's about a year ago that India managed to get a draw at the SCG when Vihari and Ashwin managed to bat the afternoon out. Australia didn't look quite as threatening as I thought they might in that little spell tonight, just before stumps. But I would strongly expect that if rain doesn't save England, that Australia will win it. But you just never know.
I'm tipping an Australian win. I think we'll do it. Usman Khawaja said there's a little patch where the balls have kind of been rising. So I think that'll play into the batter's thought process. So I can see Australia getting the win. All right. Another question from Martin.
Did Australia wait too long to declare?
I think they got it pretty right.
Yeah, I think that it wasn't too bad. I think that it moves quite quickly, that if they had declared, say, 10 overs earlier, and then, they might have got 50 runs in those last 10 overs, suddenly the equation shifts from England having to bat amazingly to win it to suddenly, actually, if they bat the day out, they possibly will win it. So notwithstanding my earlier remarks about my general frustration about how they don't go berserk right at the end, I think on the whole, the declaration was fairly okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. All right, so this is from Michael. So last night, Paul wasn't happy with the words from Stark. What does he think of all the smiley, happy chats every single day between the Aussies and the Poms pre-game for everyone to see? I've made that sound proper like English, the way it was written. Anyway, continue.
It was written perfectly, acceptably, Menace. I haven't been at the ground, so I haven't been watching any of the pre-game show. I've just been starting at the first ball, so I haven't seen those interactions, but I welcome them. I mean, I just don't see that there's any reason not to. That, you know, the one thing that you can be assured of is that they're all absolutely out there giving it their all. Like Johnny Bairstow's got probably a thumb that might be the most broken thumb in history. Butler's got a broken thumb. Boland fell over bowling and smashed himself into the ground. Stokes has wrenched a side muscle. You know, they are putting in. So I think it's absolutely fine that before and after play that they can have a smile and a laugh. And that was always the grand tradition that, you know, you go hard once you're on the field and afterwards there's no need to go hard. You might as well have a quiet beer with someone. So I think it's lovely.
I absolutely 100% agree. I enjoyed it last year when India were here and there was a lot of, friendly, the same thing. You saw a lot of pre-game chats and it was all very friendly. And I think it's actually a really good example for, you know, people that play cricket of how you should play. You know, play it hard, then have a laugh off the field.
Yeah.
Okay, take this one.
From Brewer74, is the draw still most likely as it says on WinViz? They didn't look like getting out this afternoon, but a collapse is still on the cards. I have noticed that about WinViz, that I think it follows the general trend that I think everyone thinks the draw is more likely than it is all the time. So, of course, it could be a draw tomorrow, but if I had to put my life on it, I think I'd still be putting it on an Australian win. The forecast is changing all the time, but last I looked, it wasn't too bad. I think we should get a fair bit of cricket in. So
we didn't lose a second today. I mean, True. It was perfect. It literally started raining as I was walking out of the ground.
Exactly. And I think that, I saw in one of the recent test matches somewhere, WinViz had the draw at a much higher rate than I thought. So it seems like everyone is still mired in their 1980s mindset of, it's probably going to be a draw. Sometimes it is, but draws are pretty rare these days. So I'm tipping an Aussie win.
Martin Lawrence, yep. Paul Hayden and his 200s was in 2002, or as I call it, the famous toss game. So that must be the game where NASA sent Australia in.
Yeah, you're right, Martin. And that's also the game that, speaking of CricViz, I think that some of the analysts from CricViz have actually studied it and said that Nasser Hussain got that toss right. Basically, that England was so hopelessly outgunned, and I'm making these numbers up, but they basically said that they had no chance of winning, that if they won the toss and batted, they had a 3% chance of winning, and if they won the toss and bowled, they had a 5% chance of winning. So, you know, cold comfort for Nasser Hussain, but he got that one right.
Yeah, it's what Steve Waugh always says. Just whatever you do first, do it well. I think that was their problem. All right, ask me this one.
From Jose Down Under, do you guys think Labuschagne is an overrated batsman? He was found out by Woods' extra pace 3 times in this series, and let's see how he fares when he goes to India next year.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think he's overrated, but I just think it's really hard to average 60 at test level. I mean, that's why in the history of the game, very few players have been able to sustain that level of performance. Test cricket's not easy. Just ask Ian Chappell. He'll tell you. How many tests did you play? He pulled that one out the other night. So anyway, I don't think he's overrated, but obviously the more test cricket you play, the bowlers do work you out. That's why it's called test cricket, because, you know, you're under the microscope. And I'm interested to see how he goes in India. Actually, I don't know if we talked on air, but I know Paul and I definitely spoke about that recently, that it's going to be really interesting how he handles spin.
It will be. He did play a little bit of white ball cricket for Australia and India a couple of years ago and looked good, which was heartening. I think I can't really add much to your answer, man, as I agree with it.
Thank you. All right. Jay Dutcher. Good to see Pekovsky make 40 today. Thanks, Jay. I didn't know that. How do he and Zampa fit into the subcontinent tour 11? Well, I think they'll take more than 11 on the tour. Paul?
But to be fair to Jay, it used to be the custom that they would refer to the squad as the 11, that they would talk about the England 11 that came to Australia in 1902, even though they had much more than 11. So I'm sure he's referencing that. I think that I just think if Pekovsky's fit, he's just got to go because he's such a good player. Zampa, it's an interesting one. His white ball record is fantastic. His red ball record is very, very modest, but he doesn't get a great chance to play a lot of red ball cricket. And of course, playing cricket in India can bring a wrist spinner into their own. I don't think they'll pick him. What do you think, Menas?
No, I don't think he's a chance at playing red ball cricket for Australia. I think Tanvi Sangha has more of a chance. Obviously, Swepson will go. Maybe Ashton Agar. They seem to have invested quite a bit of time in him. And then Nathan Lyon. So there'd be the four I'd be thinking will go. I'd still take Stephen O'Keefe if he was around. Even Warney could probably still flick him out. I shared a lift with Warney today. So I shared a lift today with Warne, Michael Vaughan, and Howie. And Warney was not happy with some of the abuse from the Aussie fans. They've been singing songs about his hair and stuff, and it was in front, like it was all in good fun. But Warney was copying it. You know, he's one of those lovable rogues you love to make a bit of fun at. And Warney was, you know, he's got an ego like everybody else, but he was, oh mate, I copped it out there, didn't I, Howie? Bloody hell!
Was he one? He's funny because he sometimes takes criticism really well. 4 out of 5 times he takes criticism of himself better than anyone, and then 1 out of 5 times he launches a vendetta against the person and wipes them off the face of the earth and salts their land. Which end of the spectrum was he on?
I think if there'd been a focal point, that person would have a target on their head. So yeah, it was definitely going that way.
And I know that you've been very socially distanced and being very COVID aware, and I know that none of those 3 guys necessarily have COVID, but if you were going to catch COVID, you'd want to catch it from Shane Warne. Were you breathing very close to him just on the off chance that he might have it, or that you could get COVID straight from him? That'd be quite a wonderful thing to do.
It was very strange because I saw Howie in there and I just jumped in because, you know, obviously know Howie a bit, and then Vaughan was in, and then Vaughan just jumps in just before the door closes, and all of a sudden you're in like a lift with these 3 superstars. But Howie broke the ice. Hey, manners. So anyway, so yeah, it was. But yeah, if you got COVID, Warney would be a pretty good person to get it off. I think that's it for the questions. What do you think though about Khawaja's future from here now? Regardless of whether he plays in the next Test match, this has sort of sealed his passage to Pakistan. And can I answer that question? I don't think Pekovsky should go to the subcontinent. I actually think I would not take him on this first tour. Let him play some cricket here, Victorian Premier Cricket, and maybe some Shield, because look, it's going to be a tough tour. They're going to be under strict conditions. What if he gets concussion over there? Just say worst case scenario. So I just give him a bit more time to find his feet. And then, there's other tours later in the year that you can take him on when he's got a bit of cricket under his belt.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I was saying that they'd take, assuming that in the matches beforehand he shows some form. But I think that you can't put them in cotton wool. Plus, a tour to the subcontinent is you're probably less likely to get concussed there than playing in Premier Cricket back in Australia. I think if he's good enough, send him. And he's such a wonderful player, we shouldn't waste time getting him into the side, with the massive caveat that obviously he has to be in full health.
Yep. Well, I disagree. I'd like to see some more stuff from him. But anyway, I think that's it.
Jose Down Under said, Paul, how much money are you betting for an England win? I mentioned I had a bit of money on England yesterday at 130 to 1. That was just a novelty bet, just thinking, I think they shouldn't be 130 to 1. So my loyalty and allegiance is with Australia.
Beauty. All righty. Well, yeah. So I think Khawaja goes to Pakistan now. I think he'll be. He could have a nice little year or two, a little bit of a sunset at Test level. And I think that judging by the crowd today, he's won the Australian public over. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, but I think he's always kind of been popular. And look, I mean, he might have more than a year or two. The form he showed, he's only 34. He could have 4 or 5 years. You never know.
Perfect. All righty, everyone. Well, thanks for listening and watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Paul's going away tomorrow, so hopefully we can get a show together. If not, I'll do it by myself.
Your dream. No, hopefully we'll have internet where we go.
Beauty. All righty. Take care.
See ya.